All right, another week, another Tafaz episode, which means another Tafaz episode review. It has been brought to my attention that it should be pronounced Tafatwas, technically, but that sucks compared to Tafaz, so deal with it. Also, I finally got some curtains, so the lighting should be a little bit better. Also, spoilers. Spoiler alert. Anyway, let's get into it. So episode 3 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is, I was going to say probably, definitely my favorite episode so far. I think episode 1 was very interesting, character-wise, didn't have as much kind of fun, quippy MCU stuff. Episode 2 was a bit more in the Marvel quippy MCU direction, and it was a little bit less interesting. I know he's interesting, yes, get the memes out of the way now. And this one, I felt perfectly combined the two. It was compelling from a character perspective, it had fun MCU tie-ins, it had incredible action. It was just a phenomenal episode, and yeah, I'm pretty hyped up to talk about it, to be honest. First of all, Zemo. Let's talk about the biggest part of the episode. Zemo is back, and he's a bit more comedic than the last time we saw him, but he's still pretty sinister and creepy and off-putting and, you know, Zemo. Daniel Bruhl puts in a really good performance, and the whole interplay between him, Bucky, and Sam was a lot of fun to watch. It was interesting given their history, and then also it had, you know, the banter between them. Also had some funny moments. When Sam just tells him to shut up, that was pretty good. He also uses the classic Loki line about, like, you must be truly desperate to come to me for help. And I also enjoyed that Zemo's still, despite being, you know, since he's on their team this time, also a bit more comedic, I also enjoyed that he's still kind of getting in their heads. He's still being, you know, Zemo-ish, manipulative, trying to make them, you know, doubt themselves and saying what they're thinking and all this stuff. I like that he tried to use the words when Bucky shows up for the first time. Because, I mean, he would just, it's worth a shot, you know? I will say, one part of the Zemo thing that I didn't love so much is they decide to break him out pretty quickly. Or Bucky does, I guess. I know there's a whole thing where Sam's like, why'd you break him out? And, you know, they talk about it. But all things considered, I feel like that went by pretty fast. There wasn't really any hesitation from Bucky. Like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then they're on the plane and they're, you know, having a bit of banter almost. Feels a little too casual for having this, like, extremely evil supervillain. I know they're apprehensive and obviously they don't like him and all that, but they seem to kind of get on board and be more comfortable than I would have expected pretty quickly. But hey, it's still a fun element to the episode. And it was cool to see him again, also with the, you know, comic accurate mask. And in general, I thought this episode was funnier than the last one, which I did think had its funny moments, but some of the, like, banter moments felt a tiny bit scripted, and like it felt more like it was trying to be fun banter than just naturally fun banter sometimes, although most of it was good, just for the record. Here there wasn't a single moment like that. Like, I really felt all the funny moments hit for me. And yeah, the whole disguise thing and in the nightclub and everything, and like the phone call from Sam's sister, which was also tense but also funny. Yeah, it was great. Also get a reference to the seat moving up thing from Civil War. In terms of the action, this blew me away with how much, I don't want to say how much better the action was, because the action wasn't bad last episode, but it did feel like it was a different team doing the action for this episode. Some of it felt a little bit clunky in the last one. Here, this felt more like what I was expecting. This Winter Soldier, kind of Bourne-esque, quite brutal, grounded action. Yeah, there's some great action in Madripoor in the nightclub. You know, it's not like a big scene, but like those little moments. The Winter Soldier one especially, and the music coming in where it worked the Winter Soldier theme into the rest of the score was really cool. Also, Bucky having to pretend to be the Winter Soldier for Zemo, of all people, is interesting, like, thematically for his character, because he's trying to move on from that stuff, and Zemo remarks, and maybe he's just trying to get in their heads, but that he slipped back into the role quite easily, and maybe there's a part of him that even, like, maybe misses, like, knowing his place in the world more, or I don't know, you know, there's complexity there that plan brought up. And then the action in the shipping container lot, especially with Sharon, badass, man, really badass. And as I mentioned, brutal. I mean, there's one moment where someone gets shot and there's no blood, which, I mean, fair, you know, it's an MCU thing, I mean, fair enough. But generally, there's like, I mean, there's a bit of blood, I think, and then like people are getting just shot in the head and getting stabbed with a freaking pipe and just getting stabbed in general. Just a lot of stabbings this episode. And yeah, it was awesome, and it was well filmed and great sound design, great choreography. You could see everything, and it was intense and felt more grounded. It was awesome. If the rest of the action in the show is like this, you know, if the rest of the action was like in the last episode, it would have been fine. Like, it would have been good still. But if it's like this, then hell yeah, I'm on board for this. And then we can talk about Sharon in general, Sharon returning. I actually found her character more interesting here than before, because I don't remember her being that interesting from a character perspective before. Like, she has a couple of cool moments, but I didn't really care about the character that much, and also her, like, romance with Steve was just weird and awkward, and It's kind of funny how they just abandoned it, like, straight up. They're like, yeah, that doesn't count. And here, where she's more of a dick, and, like, Bucky remarks, like, she's awful now, you know? Like, I found that interesting also because of, like, you know, she feels, like, betrayed and exiled, and she's gone through all this stuff, and it makes her more interesting than just Peggy's niece, who Steve kind of likes a little bit, and who's, like, a badass. You know, there's a bit more to her. I don't know if this was the only episode we're going to see her in. I hope not, because I liked her in this. But I suspect we'll see her pop up again, given how this ends. Just a couple of general points I have about the show from this episode. I think the show is really well paced so far, and we're halfway through it, so I'd guess that that's probably going to stick throughout. But there are quite a few elements here, and it's working them all together quite well. In general, there's Falcon's arc, there's Bucky's arc, there's their banter, there's Zemo, there's Sharon, there are the Flag Smashers, there's the new Captain America, and so far it's doing a really good job of drawing it all together in an interesting way, and it feels like it's all building to something climactic. I also like the locations in this episode. Also the coloring in those scenes was very cool, like in the streets and in the nightclub. It felt also, the episode in general felt a little bit John Wick-esque, both with like the locations a little bit, and then like the fact that, you know, there's a bounty put on them and they're meeting these like kind of shady assassin-ish people, you know, the cool action. It felt, yeah, it was a bit of a John Wicky episode. Again, there's just movie level scales and effects and, you know, locations and casting. In terms of the GRC and the Flag Smasher stuff, I also think that's been really well developed so far, like in how they're developing and what they reveal each episode about it. And the way the Flag Smasher story is building, which, you know, I mean, inherently is kind of the least interesting part of the show so far, just because you have all this other crazy stuff going on. But the way they're building it is making it more interesting. You have these more interesting motivations with the Flag Smashers and their initial goal of the GRC, and now it's also more personal with, like, you get to see kind of where it's coming from with these displacement camps, and there's tuberculosis, which they mention, which Zemo mentions is, like, common in these displacement camps, which is also some real-world commentary again. They have understandable goals, and you can kind of sympathize, and then they also do some bad stuff, like blowing up a bunch of people. So, you know, you remember that they're still villains. Also, so they stole from the power broker, and that's who was texting her the last episode. Was that revealed last episode and I just missed it? Because it felt kind of like I missed it there, and they were just kind of talking about something that was already known. But yeah, the power broker, who I guess we can talk about now. I know it's a character from the comics. I assume it'll be like, yeah, kind of the villain at the end of this that they sort of find. It'd probably be played by like a pretty big actor. Interested to see a new villain in the MCU, and given that Zemo, although he's probably not going to be great for the whole time, so far is not a villainous force in this show. Yeah, it will be interesting to see a new MCU villain by the end of this. Then there's new Captain America this episode. Doesn't get a ton of play here, but we see kind of what I was predicting, that because of the lack of respect he's being shown, and like no one really treats him like, you know, the Captain America, he's sort of going a bit crazy, and he's kind of, and now that Bucky and Sam are doing this thing, he's being pushed more and more to be more brutal and like take different measures just to like, so he can prove himself, so he can get the job done, you know. I think we're going to see more of that. He's going to be an antagonist. I feel like he's going to die by the end of this, to be honest. Getting that vibe. And then at the end, a member of the Dora Milaje shows up, which really caught me off guard, actually. And with a lot of these MCU shows, you feel like you know what's, like, because, you know, there's so many casting rumors and set photos and all this, you feel like you know kind of what's coming up. And even in some cases, you will predict things that are coming up that don't show up, which, you know, that's our own fault. So to see something that not only, like, I didn't know about, but I also didn't expect or predict was very cool. And the Wakanda music comes in, and yeah, that's pretty exciting, honestly. I thought that was a really cool way to end it. Like, Wakanda's getting involved again, bringing this whole universe in to make it feel not like kind of at the start of phase 2 where everyone was wondering like, why, where are the other Avengers while all this stuff is happening. Now they're bringing stuff in the universe in, so it makes more sense. And yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome. Can't wait to see what the, you know, how the Wakandans play into this, especially with their relationship with Bucky. So yeah, those are my thoughts on episode 3. Thought it was great. Really can't wait to keep watching this. And we're already halfway done, which like is both exciting and sad, because like, you know, it's great. I want more. But also it really feels like they have a good story mapped out, and it feels like it's building really well to this climax with like, it's well paced and everything. Love it. That has been episode 3 review. Also, before you leave a comment, yes, I also would love for me to get a haircut, but the haircutting places are closed currently because pandemic. So hopefully soon, though. We'll see. Anyway, what did you think of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier Episode 3? Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, check out my Instagram and Twitter at BHL_Hudson, check out this podcast that I do with a friend of mine where we talk about movies, TV shows, a bunch of nonsense. It's called The Poorly Planned Podcast, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.